such as Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, a movie that you shouldn't pay not only the ticket prices for, I wouldn't pay the $2 alone. If the tickets were $2, which is just a service fee for the upgrade, I wouldn't go to this. What an absolute waste of potential for what is supposed to be the start of Phase 5. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is the 30th? I think
31st.
I think we're at 30. 31st movie.
Yeah.
31
I
flavors.
People saying 31st.
Oh,
yeah, there you go.
That's so funny.
So synchronous.
I take it all back. An extra half star. This movie was supposed to be the greatest villain, bigger than Thanos, and decided to have him go up against the flavor of the week in the most uncontentious freaking battle I've seen. The most pathetic intro to a villain since season 2 of The Walking Dead. Was it season 3? Where they couldn't commit to the governor doing what he needed to do. Wow, could they not commit to what Kang was committed? They could not commit to Kang conquering, pretty much. I have never seen a movie give you so many recaps for what is supposed to happen in the movie, but never actually showing you the villain doing the thing he's supposed to do. This is Paul Rudd coming in, playing Paul Rudd for the 3rd time. They've recast his daughter for the 3rd time. Evangeline Lilly, for the 3rd time, has been asking to be the lead. It is just the only 2 people having fun in this movie, surprisingly, is Michael Douglas, who is just chilling, and then what's her name? Who we went back
Michelle
and did a
Pfeiffer?
whole deep dive on all the other movies that she's done, and Michelle Pfeiffer has got the easiest paycheck to do here because she is the one who finally takes what was Michael Douglas's role in the first one, which is to just give you an LME and recap everything. That's all she's doing here. And when it comes to the best bit, she goes, you don't even want to hear about that part.
Yeah,
I don't know how you
It's
felt
like,
about this.
her character is essentially like the exposition dump, but she also refuses to do the exposition dump for about half the movie. For the first half of the movie, they just sit around and say, "You didn't tell us anything about this," and then she stares off icily. Like, I don't know.
When she hit them early on in the movie with like, I don't want to talk about it. Well, we got to talk about the quantum. Why don't you ever ask me? I'm like, man, what do you want?
Yeah, Michael Douglas too. Like he gets fun things to do in these movies, but I do get a sense of, not just from him, but from most people in the cast, that they feel a little like they're being held hostage here for at least some of it. There's that funny bit on the red carpet going around where they ask him if he'd come back for a 4th, and he says, "If they kill me," which I guess same. I don't know. I think the thing that you're talking about in how they've botched the introduction to Kang is that there's like a tonal mismatch going on here. The movie never really decides how big or small it wants to be. And I think the thing that has made these Ant-Man movies, at least to me, somewhat different, somewhat unique in the Marvel landscape, and somewhat enjoyable as like alternates to what you normally get from the MCU. Is there smallness? Is there scrappiness? Is the like minor scale that they're on? And yeah, like we get smaller than ever before, but the visual scope of the movie is of like a gigantic space epic. It's just unfortunately like this spacious realm that's got these ugly purple and red and brown backdrops that also clash with the purple, red, and brown costumes that everybody has on. So it just all looks like one big visual slop. It's so hard to like really know what's happening in a lot of these scenes. Like there's isolated actions, but there's never really a sense of Ant-Man against the scale of this movie. The way that in the previous 2 films, it's like, all right, he shrunk down and he's no longer, he's now the size of something small that we understand, like a penny or an ant or a toy train set. Or he's big, he's as big as that building. Now he gets bigger, he gets smaller, and it's kind of like,
don't matter.
What is there even really to compare it to? Because this is all weird, made-up sci-fi rocks and space aura.
Yeah, because like you're saying, I rewatched 1 and 2, and they have these really cool sequences when they're like driving, or they're driving and they're small, so the whole like space of it feels different. It feels like it's slowed down. The audio changes because they're a different size. There's the epic scene in the first one when you have the Thomas the Train Engine bit, and that's getting bigger and smaller. Here, because they're in the quantum realm, right? Which is the whole point of it is that it's like, I don't know, figure out anything they have right there. It's this part of the mic so tiny that it's the entire universe upon universe upon universe in there. So Zach's right. When they're getting bigger, when they're getting smaller, like they're never getting bigger than the quantum realm. And there's no space or anything to show you what's going on because they shot all this in the volume. Okay? Like Zach said, it's trying to be every like space opera possible over there. And I thought it was funny because, yes, it's trying to do Star Wars, right? There are a lot of moments where there's been several movies where we call it Star Wars, but in reality, this is the prequels to an insane degree. When they entered that bar, it literally felt like not the cantina from the 70s. No. This was like what George Lucas was trying to do in the early 2000s. None of those characters there, and I can't even find some of them, but I'll use this guy as an example. It's just a bunch of stuff thrown at the screen. It's like Strange World. All of these different things that look cool for a frame, but you're like, would they really be there? They go to a bar, and the bar serves like liquids. But then there are rocks who don't have mouths, and it's like, how do they get served there? Nah, don't worry about that. We just need them for the really cool shot.
It's Star Wars by way of like a bad Rick and Morty episode because they've got all these like goofy.
It's the writer from Rick and Morty who wrote this.
Exactly. I mean, so you can feel that sort of like desperation, that sort of like loudness that Rick and Morty gets to occasionally. And like I enjoy Rick and Morty, but I just think that the humor here, because it sort of gets tampered down to be that sort of like MCU, make sure it appeals to all the markets thing, it just sort of ends up feeling like I don't know, it just feels like energy in search of like humor, right? It's sort of the cadence of a joke, but not something that's actually funny. And you see people like reacting like it's a joke, but it's you feel the absence of it. You feel the wanting to be funnier than it is, and that's worse than actually not. I don't know, than not doing a joke.
They did that to your boy Chidi over here, dude. They gave him a dirty one. Have you ever seen like someone try to like hold somebody back, but the guy wasn't even Russian? That's what they had this man do over here. Exactly what Zach was saying about them thinking there's a joke. They have him, Harper, right? What's his name? William? They have William this Jackson dude play Harper, a guy who can read minds. And supposedly, there's a point where everyone's like yelling at each other, and he does this bit where he's like, stop, 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 like he's trying to cut the laughter. In my theater, Zach, there was no laughter. There is no awkward moment, more awkward moment than a man trying to like cut through past the what would be the laugh track. And it's just silence. It's just crickets. There are moments later on in the movie where you get this menacing figure of Jonathan Majors coming in, and he's talking about how he's killed Avengers. This dude was ad-libbing lines that it makes me wonder why there's even a scriptwriter on this thing. I am Kang. He ad-libbed on the day. Time is nothing but a prison or a cage. He ad-libbed on the day. Are y'all paying him for screenwriting over here? Because at this point, I don't even... This isn't a collaboration. He's coming in, and he's the only one who's acting like this is Shakespeare, while every other damn actor in this movie is waiting for lunchtime.
That's the other thing that I think was sort of like a miscalculation, because I love Jonathan Majors, and I think his performance is good. There's this really interesting nature to how he delivers his lines, because he's got this... I like that you bring up Shakespeare, because it's English inflected and it's gentle, but there's something booming about it. And you can see in his face, he's like got this very mournful type of way that he carries himself. I thought it was a really interesting like level to frequency of the performance. I thought it was an interesting choice by Jonathan Majors for a different movie, because nobody else is on the same page as him. And you feel that tonal ping pong when you go from Paul Rudd doing his thing to Jonathan Majors delivering a monologue about how he's going to wipe out existence.
And then the guy comes in and he goes, oh, well, Thor, I get confused with him a lot. And it's like, why do you have to undercut the tension every single time? There were rumors that this had a test screening and that it was a lot more dreadful than it originally came out to be, that it was supposed to end on a different note. Everyone has probably seen the leaks out there since my girl, Evangeline Lilly, has a completely different haircut in the final sequence of this movie without getting into full spoilers. And we've heard that it was like barely a month ago, probably the Wednesday right before this movie came out, before it was screened to critics. They were still filming stuff. And clearly they were trying to rearrange things. And look, I know every Marvel movie, every project has reshoots and stuff like that. but it can't be that apparent that they don't really know where they're kind of taking it. And my biggest thing was the tone, because there's this bit where you're kind of dealing with trauma. You have the character of MODOK. I don't know if it's a spoiler or not, but the character of MODOK is...
If you're on Twitter, there's no way you haven't been spoiled to it.
Yeah, and that's the point, I guess. That's what they're going for, to get the word out for it.
Yeah.
This dude is a complete joke, and yet somehow it convinced me by the end of it. At some point, I actually went from hating him to being, screw it, why not? We're here. Let me live in the quantum realm with y'all. Yeah. It's so dumb, but I saw a through line of PTSD with that character, a PTSD with Janet's character who's been stuck, Michael Douglas who's getting cucked, Ant-Man specifically, when you get to the point where he's finally having these introspective moments, and I'm like, whoa, what are you guys working with here? It came out of nowhere. It felt like it was from a different draft, like something that another director had put there, where he's finally having these like Hawkeye moments where he's wondering, did I mess up? A literal what-if scenario of, is he going to cause more destruction? Never mind. Let's go back to some crazy jokes and whatever else. And I'm wondering how much of a re-edit that was, where they didn't have the balls to go all out and have it another Infinity War type ending to begin Phase 5. And instead they toned it back a bit, to the point that they end this movie on a joke and nobody felt it was a joke.
Yeah, they end the movie basically in the exact same place where the movie started. And I know that, like, if you care about the greater continuity in these MCU movies, there's some sort of, like, change. But, like, for almost every single character we see, they end up in the exact same place where the movie starts. And it's just sort of like, it's a little bit like, so why are we here? Why did we do this? Like, why is this like very small scale type of hero the way that you choose to introduce the like next universe spanning type of story? And it never really feels like properly calculated. Like, I actually felt like that little inner monologue he has toward the end of the movie would have been a good place to like start the first act of this movie.
I'm gonna give you another one. I agree with you on there. Give me that Janet flashback when Janet's like, yeah, you know, we had this moment here, and I'm going to waste 20 minutes on that. And then you don't want to hear about the part where I had to like hide in the wilderness against this crazy technology that comes from like millions of years in the future. Nah, I just survived for 30 years on that. What? Give me that series. Give me that movie. That sounds way more fascinating than having the cast be split for half the movie and then having the most dumbest cameos. What do you think of Bill Murray?
I think that we're kind of like past the point where a surprise Bill Murray cameo is kind of like, oh, wow, I can't believe he showed up. You know, like I think Zombieland was the last time where it's like, oh, wow, Bill Murray, that's an unexpected Now it's kind of a thing that happens. And particularly with the MCU's ability to kind of just like get anyone at any point, it never really... It doesn't really feel like that's surprising anymore when somebody shows up. Like, he's Bill Murray. He's got good comedic timing. I think the scene in question, it has like this, again, huge tonal shift suddenly where it's kind of like you splice two different scenes together.
It fully worked for me. We also had, like I said, the third recasting of Cassie. Like, she made it through the blip, and she didn't make it through the casting director. Catherine Newton has been in several different things that I think people really like her for. I've heard people get really mixed things for her. I think she's a really cool person. Mm-hmm. Bro, have you seen the trends on TikTok for her? It's just montages of her mid-acting. And look, I feel bad for her. I'm not coming in on the defense club. I'm just saying, y'all being real harsh on this girl as if it's not the terrible script that she had to work with.
Yeah, not only a terrible script, but I imagine there's a lot of like acting opposite CGI. There's a clip going around on Twitter of her interaction with the MODOK character. Yeah.
Because it's the worst scene of the year.
Well, it's not... I think the scene as written could have been better, but there's like if you think about how the actors are delivering their lines, it's very clear they are not acting opposite each other. Like, they probably did that months apart from each other. And it's like very clear they're not in the room with each other. So of course not. I feel like she's probably less acquainted with that type of acting where you don't have a scene partner, or your scene partner is a tennis ball or the volume, you know?
I don't know if you heard, it's always been her dream to work with Paul Rudd. So Paul Rudd just screwed with her the entire set and made her crack before filming. So every
Nice.
single time they were about to yell action, he would just go up to her and just be like, "Oh, and like I told you, just remember not to laugh." And it would just go, and she'd be cracking the entire time. Somehow, she claimed she laughed at every single take. But they were able to use Adobe Podcast, that new software we were talking about before the show, because they just cut her out completely. So when you say that they really weren't in the same room, Zach, there were people shooting in the same like base, in the same stage, and somehow they were able to not just crop them out, their audio alongside with it. So this is the most stitched together movie possible. I just wish that it was more exciting. I don't know how we have all this money invested, and you keep saying Ant-Man's the small guy. That's his power, but it's still got a big budget. To me, a small movie, a proper small movie, would be doing the what's it called? The Jessica series that they had on Netflix. Daredevil. Yeah. That to me is grounded. There's too much CGI in this movie to be able to call it grounded. There's too much goofy stuff. The Quantum Realm used to have this rule about the 5 hours. I had made a joke about how he was gone for 5 years, and that equaled 5 hours in the Quantum Realm, and it turns out that doesn't matter because they're saying that quantum math changes every second. How convenient is that? I hate the rules that they're playing with. They've become super lazy. And I'm just going to end it with Kevin Feige came out and said, actually, no, let me give one big shout out. Shout out to her, bro. Y'all need more characters like this. Y'all need more characters like Katie's character. This woman was ripped. She's the one who plays that like Raid looking character who just like beats up people with the sledgehammer that she had. That was an awesome character. Feige. He wants to continue this series like comics. Here's what he forgets. Comics have been around for so long that they reboot, they restart. It's not the same Spider-Man series going on. You can call it Spider-Man 800, whatever. It's been too many incarnations. I don't know if he's going to be able to continue that with this. He claims there's going to be 80 years of the MCU. I don't know if I can stand 8 more minutes of another Ant-Man movie. All of these movies have been filler. I'm happy for Paul Rudd. I'm glad they get their paychecks, but what's the point?
Is this your new low for the MCU?
No, because we just had Thor. That's what's Thor's so embarrassing. Y'all acting like we didn't have Eternals. Thor. Like, y'all, like, no, it's been back to... Someone made a montage of just the VFX. The floating Thor head. The Eternal stuff that wasn't finished. She-Hulk. We're on phase 5. Y'all have all the money in the world. How are you not sparing any expense? That's the worst part. It's the... I don't expect much from them, but when you're getting actors like Jonathan, and when you have all the budgets in the world, and it's now $2 extra to go sit in a seat at an AMC theater, I'm sorry. I need the movies finished.
Yeah.
I don't recommend it, Zach, but I would say wait for it at home.
Yeah, I don't know if you see the new MCU fanboy talking point going around. Like, they can't all be good. We need to sit through these to get to the end games. So let's talk about that for a quick second, though, because I think we both agree that, like, the place the movie ended is at least more interesting than the place the movie started. And now there is that promise of all these Kangs, all these future appearances from our boy Jonathan Majors. Where do you feel going forward? We have a Guardians movie coming up, which is one of the few Marvel announcements that a lot of people seem excited for. They just pushed back the Marvels from July, I think, to November. How do you feel about going into the next couple MCU projects?
Who's the leader?
Of the Avengers? We don't know.
I don't want no young Avengers.
Anthony Mackie, according to him.
Yeah, the man has doubts that he's even going to be able to lead the team. So if y'all don't know, damn, I don't know either. What a terrible position to be in. I don't have any faith in all the young kids coming together. There's a reason why you didn't have the confidence to start them off in movies and you threw them to TV, specifically streaming, where you don't have to worry about weekly ratings. I don't know who's going to be leading these teams. They're firing everybody who makes all the money, right? They just got rid of Angela Bassett. They got rid of all of the original Avengers cast. Who is going to be the leader of this new team that's going to get people into theaters? There is no way you can release another Avengers movie and have that flop. You can't. And they don't have a team ready for that. There are no Robert Downeys. How many more movies does Thor have on them? Like, I am pretty worried where they're going to take it. I think it's going to be a lot rockier than people want it to be. Here's the craziest part. I don't want to get into too much spoilers, bro. But they really are telling you, just stay at home. We got some stuff on Disney Plus. Don't worry about coming to the theater. We got some stuff on Disney Plus, and that is crazy to me. We are no longer even being pushed to go to theaters. Kinda. We can get like $7.99 from you for sure, secured every single month if you go over to Disney Plus. Let's continue doing that. And at that point, it's like it's not really about building the story, but about how many pockets of revenue they can get you at. I don't know. It feels like a lot of homework going into a lot of these. But that's to do with the after credits. To answer that question, they better not be setting up Jonathan Majors, because the first thing when we came out of the theater, I messaged you. I was like, "Who the heck did you see up on screen?" They got Jonathan Major answering the question, "Acting is acting." They decided to put this man. And it was, I don't want to spoil it, but when they talk about incarnations, they really mean, what if Jonathan Majors? What if we got an actor who can play every nationality and pull a nutty professor and not get canceled for it?
Right? Like,
y'all are crazy for that.
He clearly like is willing to go to goofy places for some of these incarnations. I don't know why the first iteration of Kang we saw was one that isn't goofy at all in an Ant-Man movie.
Here's the thing. Yeah, this is the Conqueror. The one from Loki was like, I guess, another individual. This is the Conqueror. Like, there's not another one. He is the Conqueror.
Yeah. Right.
Man, he sucked, bro. He didn't do anything. He didn't conquer. Like, if you're going up against Ant-Man, how is Paul Rudd? You beat up Michael B. Jordan, bro. What's ants? I don't want no ants. How do you beat you up like this? I'm done with this movie, bro. Ant-Man and the Wasp and the Quantumania. It's out in theaters. I say wait for it at home. I think Zach agrees the same way. But I don't know. It's his favorite franchise out of these 31 flavors from Marvel that we've gotten. But
hey, they hired my boy from I Think You Should Leave. That was kind of cute.
Who?
The steering wheel guy. He's the coffee shop dude.
You know what? I will give them that. They have done really good casting. I said I was done with this, bro. Zach, why are you gonna keep pulling me back? They baited people with Randall Park just to be in one scene in the beginning.
Ugh. Y'all
sick for that. 2. Shout out David Dasmalchian. He played the little people have known him as Polka Dot Man. The worst thing that they did in this movie, you're talking about it being small scale. Why'd you get rid of the trio? Why'd you get rid of his entire group? That's the
Can you imagine how much funnier it would have been if Michael Pena was in the quantum realm?
I mean, at this point, yeah. At this point, yeah. I don't know. He played the little the guy with the holes, the Veb dude. He was on set actually playing that. So good for him for being able to find another role to go in there.
Somebody stuck around.
Somebody stuck around. But yeah, you were right. They had mentioned, I don't know why I can't find him here. But yeah, the guy who says the steering wheel and it flies off the whatever. In one, Tim Heidecker's the boat guy. And his gazpacho soup one is one of my favorite ones from I Think You Should Leave. So look, they have really good comedians in here. I just wish they
cast it well.
Made better movies. They cast it well.